Facilities that make this program possible are provided by the City of Highland Park. Programs are produced independently by members of the community. The City of Highland Park is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of the City of Highland Park.
Welcome to Chill Out. I'm Pam Chill, and today's program is about the important topic of patient advocacy. I'm privileged once again to have on my show Teri Dreher. Welcome again, Teri. Thank you so much for coming out. And we're going to be launching your new book, Patient Advocacy Matters. I'm just going to give like a brief bio on you. You're an RN, CCRN, and iRNPA. You have over 36 years of clinical experience in critical care nursing home-based healthcare and expertise as a cardiovascular nurse clinician. You are well acquainted with the complexities and challenges of the modern healthcare system, and you have served as a nursing leader, mentor, educator, and consistent patient advocate throughout your career in some of the leading hospitals across the country. Your passion for patient safety and your drive to keep the patient at the center of the American healthcare system led you to incorporate North Shore Patient Advocates in 2011, which is known as N-Shore Patient Advocates, serving clients throughout Chicagoland. You've also won an award-winning inspirational speaker, writer, private patient advocate, and you help young and old alike navigate their personal healthcare challenges successfully. You say that patient advocacy has always been a core value in your career as a nurse, and being able to own your own private professional advocacy company is now a dream come true. Welcome again. Thank you so much for appearing. I'm so happy, delighted. Now tell me a little bit about, you're most welcome, about why you chose to write the book.
Well, the short story is I just wanted to meet more people through the book. I wanted more people to have some tools and tips and hear stories from the front that they can put themselves into and just help prevent medical error. We're living in a very complex time in American healthcare, and change has been really, really quickly evolving over the last few years since the Affordable Care Act was put into place. And now that we have a new administration, we expect a lot more changes. So I wanted to reach as many people as possible and help prevent harm to people all over the country.
Oh, excellent. And you're doing a great job at it. Now, what made you initially go into the field of patient advocacy?
Well, ICU nurses tend to be natural patient advocates. In the hospitals, we take care of one or two patients at a time, and we try to give very holistic care to those patients. We're used to dealing with emergencies. We're used to seeing a lot of complications of medical treatment. We're used to talking very collaboratively and respectfully to physicians. So ICU nurses have the kind of temperament and skill level and knowledge to be able to effectively intervene early. And so that was a real core value. And I also really, really believed that every nurse should treat all patients as if they were their own family members. And so that's the way I always practiced. And I had a couple incidents in my personal life that showed me how quickly American healthcare is changing, and the patient is getting lost in the shuffle sometimes. So I wanted to help people and started my own business 6 years ago, and right now we are the largest, highest skill level patient advocacy company in the Chicago area. So we're doing well because there are a lot of problems in modern healthcare.
Yes, yes, there are. And actually, a very well-trained nurse or nurse advocate can rectify or initially see, problems that are going to be happening or happening very shortly. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, they recognize the signs. Now, why do you think that people need a patient advocate?
Well, about 20 or 30 years ago, very few people came and sat at patients' bedsides all the time. And I think there's a growing awareness on the part of the general public that things are not the way they were when Marcus Welby was shown. So everybody today needs a patient advocate. The American public is becoming more and more aware of the high rates of medical error, complications, hospital-acquired infections, communication errors. Almost everybody has somebody in their family that has had a devastating, tragic experience with hospitalized medicine. And so more and more people are coming to the hospital and taking turns with family members, sitting at the bedside and taking notes and asking questions and never leaving the patient alone. So really everybody today, whether it's family or professional, needs their own patient advocate.
Mm-hmm. Do you really think that it is beneficial for somebody to stay every minute, a family member with them?
Well, during the daytime when the doctors are making rounds, you really can't pin down when doctors are coming. Nurses can't predict when doctors are coming because they have emergencies. But recently I had a patient in the hospital and I got there at 7 in the morning and I did not leave until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon after all the specialists had come in, and I had a chance to stop and ask all the tough questions and help the care managers with discharge planning because this poor gentleman had no family available in the state at all.
Oh, he had you, so
Yeah.
that was the important thing.
Right.
Yes. Now, how does someone know when to call in an expert, a professional patient advocate?
Well, usually people have an instinct when things are starting to go wrong and they are being dismissed by doctors, or they're seeing so many doctors, everybody has a different answer. And so in situations where people feel like their rights are being impacted or something is just not quite right and no one is addressing the bigger issues, because family members know what normal is for their loved ones. And so when the family member is not getting the answers that they need, sometimes it's helpful just to call and do a quick referral and say, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? And so usually it has to do with something that's over their head, inability or not enough time to handle.
Now, do people really know, going back to it, their medical rights? So maybe you can just elaborate a little bit what their rights are as a hospitalized patient.
Well, they have a right to safe, high-quality care. They have a right to have all information necessary. They have a right to their medical records. Most people do not realize, but legally, patient medical records are the property of the patient. So a lot of times family members will go in and say, I want all the medical records. And the nurse or the doctor will say, well, we can't do that.
Well, I had a similar experience with a very close relative of mine, and they said, well, we can't do anything until she's been totally discharged. But I said, but I want to see the results now. I want to see, the x-rays that have been taken, the lab work, everything now. But couldn't furnish it.
Well, sometimes it's helpful to talk to the doctor or talk to the nurse manager. They say that a lot. They say we're not allowed to release the records. And some hospitals have policies that they don't want to turn over the medical records until the chart is complete. And sometimes all the tests take a week or two to come in. So they'll say, well, we can't give it to you until it's complete, so you'll have to wait until 2 weeks after discharge. That's technically not true. When I go into a facility and present a medical release of information form, they know that I know what patient rights are, and they give it to us.
Now, also, I did want to talk a little bit about the need for medical power of attorney.
Yes.
You did talk in your book about medical power of attorney and also financial power of attorney. And they may not necessarily be that same person.
That's true. In a lot of families, there's one son or daughter that is better at handling finances and business affairs. That would be the person to have the general financial business power of attorney. The person who should be your healthcare power of attorney can or doesn't have to be a family member. Some families, quite frankly, are dysfunctional, and you wouldn't want them being your power of attorney for healthcare.
Or they have some gain.
Right.
Right.
They have some personal gain or divided motives, or there's fighting between the siblings. So a healthcare power of attorney is a person that would make decisions on your behalf if you became incapacitated. So this is somebody that you really need to sit down and have some of the tough conversations that need to happen before you assign somebody. That person has to have the personality, the time available, and the willingness to act on your behalf if you could suddenly go into a coma, for instance.
Even, if somebody doesn't go into a coma, they may be so heavily sedated,
yes,
or intubated that for a short period of time, that they can't really respond or make, qualified decisions.
Oh, exactly. And a lot of seniors go into hospitals completely fine, and they have medication reactions, so they become incompetent. They have sleep deprivation, they have severe reactions to some sedation. Sleeping pills in the elderly are a high cause for people to develop delirium, or they will look like they're losing their marbles, and really it's just a medication side effect. So people really shouldn't be making their own decisions when they're not competent and fully in control of their faculties.
Do you see an over-sedation of elderly?
Oh, absolutely. Polypharmacy of the elderly in this country is hard to predict how many people die every year due to over-medication. I had one client that I was called in by the son who happened to be a dentist, and he said, I feel like I'm losing my mom. They're telling her she has Alzheimer's. And I went in and I met this lovely 85-year-old person who weighed about 92 pounds, and she was on such heavy doses of sleeping pills and other anxiety agents. Her sleep doctor had told her that she was probably having Alzheimer's. We got rid of one of the medications that's known to cause delirium in elderly women particularly.
And what is that medication?
I'm not sure if I should say.
Oh, maybe we shouldn't say it.
I'll tell you later, Pam.
Or you tell me after the show, yes.
But a lot of times people, when they get older, they can't clear the medications out of their system well. And they have excessive reactions to those medications, and they interact. And none of the doctors are really talking to each other in today's world. So one doctor orders a pain pill, another doctor orders a sleep pill. And they get in and out of the doctor's office in less than 5 minutes sometimes. And so none of the doctors are really looking at all the different medications sometimes, and things can slip through the cracks in a dangerous way. We got this woman off her medications, and 2 months later her son said, I feel like I have my mom back again. So
yes,
it was
I think there is over-medication, especially
definitely
among the elderly. Why do we want to keep them so complacent? I mean, what is it to gain?
Well, in the hospital, it's to not bother the nurses at night. So older people, within 2 or 3 days of going into the hospital, they start to develop sleep deprivation syndrome. In the intensive care unit, we used to call that ICU psychosis. So people start getting agitated and restless, and then the nurse calls the doctor at 1 in the morning and says, Mrs. Smith is trying to climb out of bed. She's going to hurt herself. So then the doctor's knee-jerk reaction is to give her sedation, and then sometimes that will just compound the problem. So,
now, can the patient's family say, under no circumstances do I want my relative sedated?
Oh, absolutely. That's a patient right. And so the family members would need to talk to the doctors and just say, I've seen in the past that she has reactions. I do not want her to have this class of medication. If you feel that she's a danger to herself, give me a call and I'll come in and sit at her bedside so she doesn't need medication.
Or they can call, an agency to come if they can't be there. And then they can come and, and just sit with them, or give them their water or whatever they need.
Well, they don't even have to call an agency. The hospital has a legal obligation to provide safe care to the patient. So if the patient is confused and the family or the doctor says, do not sedate this person, the hospital legally has to provide a sitter to sit there at the patient's bedside.
I never knew that.
Oh,
because
yes.
I know you cannot restrain them. That is illegal, right.
So instead of restraints, they will often have an extra nurse's aide come in and just sit there next to the patient at all times, and that's to provide safety.
And just out of curiosity, who pays for that?
The hospital.
Oh, the hospital. So it won't be billed on the
No.
patient's bill at the end of the hospital stay.
No, absolutely not.
That's very interesting. I never ever knew that. So in our today's world of society, of what's happening and all the changes and our new president, President Trump, healthcare, Obamacare they're dismantling it as we speak. You know, not an actual plan as of now, you know, as of this taping that is going to, you know, supersede or take over. So this is going to be an absolute year of changes in healthcare. I mean, what do you see? I mean, how is everybody taking this, or what do you think? How do you think it's going to affect patient advocacy?
Well, I think there's going to be a strong need for the growing expansion of the industry. And it depends on who you talk to, what the reaction to repealing Obamacare will be. Honestly, I do not believe that they can completely dismantle the whole thing. There are a lot of really good things about the Affordable Care Act, such as no pre-existing conditions. Kids get to stay on their parents' insurance until they're 26. The closing of the donut hole for seniors so that they don't have to spend so much out-of-pocket expenses. And there are a lot of really good things, but to be honest, a lot of problems are happening too that need to be tweaked. And I think having a new administration come in and taking a fresh look and saying, what can we keep, what can we change, because costs are spiraling out of control. We thought initially in the first year of the Affordable Care Act that costs were starting to come down a little bit, and this year they're going right up. Everybody knows how the insurance industry has increased prices for people buying private insurance.
Premiums have gone up tremendously.
And that's what the American public cares about most, Pam. I mean, if you poll Americans, the thing they care most about is the cost of their premiums. And every state in the union has an average of 10 to 46% increase in the price of insurance premiums. So a lot of people have come off the marketplace, and we get calls all the time from people that are lost, confused, frustrated, don't even know where to turn for help.
And you know what, because I was shopping around too for changing insurance, which I did as well. And where you live.
Absolutely.
And I never knew that, but you know, because where you live does make a difference of your insurance premium. Because I was talking to, you know, I have friends very similar, you know, health issues or none, you know, very healthy. We're all healthy, same age group, and you know, just where you reside would make a difference in hundreds and hundreds of dollars of what your insurance premium is.
Oh, absolutely, in different states too.
Yes.
We have a very different demographic in rural Alabama to what we have in the northern suburbs of Chicago. So you're going to see a wide variety of
We're at the high end, by the way.
We are definitely the high end.
Definitely at the high end. Now, the high insurance premiums, what do you attribute it to?
Well,
I mean, because Chicagoland and North Suburban, North Shore is higher.
Oh, it absolutely is. And I was asked recently on another show, did I think that it was a scam by the insurance companies? And I said, I don't think so. Because last year alone, Blue Cross Blue Shield lost over $4 million. The insurance companies cannot afford the sort of cost-cutting measures that the government has placed upon their shoulders, so they really have no choice but to raise the price of premiums. They had no idea what the massive expansion of Medicaid and low-cost insurance exchange programs was going to cost everybody. And so I think insurance companies themselves didn't adequately understand the impact, and every year they get closer to the mark of understanding what it costs to give health care. And honestly, I am just feeling like we're in a real time in history in America that we're well prepared to deal with change. We've been through a lot of change. Our country is resilient. I don't think there's any reason for people to panic. We're going to get through this and make healthcare in America better.
Oh, well, we have to. I mean, it has to be better. And we have to tweak what's wrong, and obviously,
absolutely.
You know, now going back to insurance companies, I just wanted to touch briefly on insurance denials.
Yeah.
Okay, both in medication and, you know, hospitalization, and, you know, if somebody does meet the criteria of the 3-day hospital stay, then they are allowed to go to, a rehab facility because they haven't walked in the 3 days and they've totally deconditioned. So you, as a patient advocate, can you somehow intervene with that whole process? Because they say the family member can, dispute it or appeal it, but, how successful is anybody I've talked to? They have not gotten it. I mean, any appeal.
Well, it's very difficult. The appeals are being turned down right now in record rates. As consumer advocacy groups grow and grow and grow, the hospital systems and the insurance industry are clamping down and making it harder and harder to talk to people in positions of decision making. I talked to a gentleman this morning who is trying to give a kidney to his sister here in Chicago, and he had one blood pressure reading that was too high, and they turned him down to be a donor. And so that's a situation where a nurse advocate can call, talk to an actual medical person in the transplant department and say, here's a list of the blood pressures that we have from this gentleman's general practitioner in another state. Would you reconsider? Because one blood pressure when people are very nervous is not always a real good indication on whether or not somebody has the kidneys to be able to give one to his sister.
Right, so. Absolutely. And then the medication too is that, you may have a medication that absolutely works for you, there are no side effects, and then your insurance company denies it and they want to put you on this other medication that is not going to do it, and you have a lot of side effects. What is the answer to that?
Well, it is very frustrating, Pam, and doctors I know are very frustrated that the insurance companies are telling them how to practice medicine. Doctors generally know the right thing to do for their particular client, and one of the unfortunate tenets of the Affordable Care Act is that it's all but put the small private practitioners out of business. They can't afford to compete with the big accountable care organizations, and I don't think the general public likes assembly line medicine. I think they really want to be able to sit down and have real conversations. This relationship between doctor and patient is very sacrosanct, and taking that away by making doctors spend so little time with their patients today is, first of all, unethical. Second of all, it leads to higher rates of medical error, and that costs more money for everybody.
Now, electronic medical records, they have not really improved medical errors. I mean, this is like, everybody thought it would, and it doesn't.
No, it absolutely doesn't, because doctors are so busy right now, they just copy and paste. So they're not doing the thorough history and physicals that they used to. They're just taking their colleagues' history and physical, copying it and pasting it. And honestly, nobody has time to read the medical errors. If you go into any chart today, you will find multiple errors just because people are so rushed. I know when I worked in intensive care last, we did a study on our unit, and nurses were spending 8 to 9 hours of every 12-hour shift on the computer. Now, there's something wrong with that system. There's so much superfluous charting that goes on, and nobody reads it. There are 14 different steps to take a medication out of the Pyxis to give it to the patient. So patients complain about poor pain control because the nurse takes 10 minutes to get their pain medication. It's not because she's lazy. It's because the system is so cumbersome right now. It slows down everything. They need more doctors and nurses telling the government how to do things most efficiently.
Well, they're not in the field.
No, they're not.
I mean, they're giving all this advice and they're making life and death decisions, and they're not there. They don't know what is taking place.
No, and it's so hard.
That's why they need someone like you. And if somebody is watching this, it would be wonderful to be on a committee to reorganize and totally revamp the entire Obamacare so it becomes Trump care in a good, way that it could be done. So, but doctors, I mean, I hear that from a lot of people too. You go to your doctor and they're just sitting there like this. And the ones who actually can type 70 to 80 words a minute, they can see more patients.
Right.
So also the doctor or the NP, cannot, they just can't see that many in that amount of time.
No.
And then when you have practices that are also run by hospitals, they have quotas.
Oh, they do.
Just like sales.
Oh,
I mean,
exactly.
people don't realize that, but you know, they have to see so many patients in a day. They have to show profitability.
Oh, exactly, Pam. I actually had a physician working for me about 6 months ago who was a former emergency room physician, and she said, Teri, I knew it was time to leave when they told me I was spending too much time with the patients. And that's true. It's all about volume and productivity in today's world of healthcare. I went to the emergency room for one of my clients 2 weeks ago, and the emergency room doctor came in and saw my client. We were in the emergency room itself for 5.5 hours. He was in the room for less than 1 minute. 1 minute.
1 minute.
So that was kind of an eye-opening experience, because it's getting to be more and more like an assembly line. Productivity, the system is slow, it's cumbersome, and good old-fashioned common sense is going out of style. That's why everybody needs their own private patient advocate.
They absolutely need their own private patient advocate. And is it true that the United States we spend the most money on health care?
Oh, we absolutely
anywhere in the world.
We absolutely do.
And do we have the best health care?
Absolutely not. We are number 32, last time I looked, in terms of developed countries, the quality of health care. We are way down on the list. And yet, Americans think that we have the highest quality medical care in the world. We absolutely do not.
Who is number one or number two? Can we model ourselves? I mean, because, you know, obviously, whatever we're doing isn't working. I mean, we have CEOs of insurance companies taking, you know, double-digit, multi-million dollars of, you know, of stock options and bonuses, and, you know, and they're denying patients, you know, really affordable medication. It's not even sometimes, you know, very, very expensive medication, but just, you know, a better medication.
Well, it is. I was talking to a woman this morning from Sweden. Sweden has a very, very high quality of safe health care, but they pay somewhere around 40 to 50% rate in taxes. Whether or not the American public is willing to swallow something that difficult, to raise our taxes that much to get free universal health care for everyone. Places like Sweden, France, a lot of European countries have excellent health care. They don't have the malpractice suits that we have in America that drives up the costs of health care, and they also educate their children too. The economy is not as healthy and robust as it is in America, but there's something to be said for universal health care, I will admit.
Well, that might be something to look into, you know, but if they do that, as far as being a role model of that. Now, Europe has all universal health care?
No,
not
not
all
every
of Europe,
country
right.
does. I would have to look at the
I
data.
believe England does, too.
Oh, England definitely does. The thing that Americans don't like about places like England is that you have to wait sometimes 4 or 5, 6 months for a CAT scan or an MRI, and you don't get quick and easy access to the system. The doctors are paid much like perhaps government workers in this country, so they don't make a lot of money, but they go to work and work 40, 50 hours a week, and everybody can show up. Even foreigners can show up and get free health care in a lot of their clinics.
How's Germany? Because I thought Germany was one of the better ones.
I think Germany is right up there. Germany, Sweden, Norway, the Netherlands. We have a lot of countries that could be role models.
So in closing, I'd like to thank you for your revelations of the healthcare industry.
Thanks, Pam.
And your book is very easy to read. It's very user-friendly. So if you want a topic to go into.
It's very story-rich. People really like stories.
Yes, it's a lot of stories. I remember reading there was a story about this Darla, and it was, she was somebody who absolutely needed a patient advocacy person to come in and distribute her financial affairs as well as her own affairs. So, you know, you learn every day from your patients, and I guess they learn from you as well. You know, that's the kind of, oops, I dropped the book.
Okay. Well, I love this work, Pam, so it's the greatest job in the world to be able to help people.